The Baltimore Ravens rookies have stepped up in a big way over the course of the first 2 weeks of the season, and there's going to be even more responsibility on their plate in week 3 against the Lions.
Lamar Jackson, prime time, M&T Bank Stadium. Could we be looking at another Jackson 5? We talked about all this and more next here on the Raven Squad Show.
Rise and shine, it's the Ravens Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything Baltimore Ravens every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Charm City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Flock together and squad up. The Ravens Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. I am Kevin Oestreicher. With me is Sam Njoku. Kadri Ismail is figuring out some stuff on the technical side. Hopefully he will be with us soon. But of course, we're here bringing you Ravens coverage and content. The Locked On Ravens Squad shows, of course, Wednesdays and after game days. So it's usually Sundays, but of course we have a Monday night matchup with the Detroit Lions for Baltimore in week 3. So we'll be live with you after the Monday night game. And we bring you all that Ravens coverage here. We also have the Locked On Ravens regular show, which is hosted by myself, and that's weekdays, Monday through Friday. We have all the Ravens content and coverage you need here on Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for tuning in, making the Locked On Ravens Squad Show a part of your day, your first listen each and every single day. And thanks to all the everydayers out there, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. And this episode of the Locked On Ravens Squad Show is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Sam, this is a big week for the Ravens. I mean, look, they got back in the win column. We talked about that on Squad Show post-game edition on Sunday. It was a game against Cleveland where the offense didn't necessarily look their best. And you look up and Lamar Jackson has 4 touchdowns and the Ravens have 41 points. Like, oh, all right. Hey, you'll take that. How are you feeling heading into this week 3 game? We're going to talk about it a lot on the show.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. A lot of things that I saw on film for the Ravens are concerning, but I really do chalk it up to the Browns' defense, especially their front four being exceptional. A lot of Ravens offensive linemen, headlined by Ronnie Stanley, struggled mightily in that game. And Myles Garrett has a lot to do with that, of course, but I think this next game will be a better litmus test to see how this team will perform against your average to above average defensive fronts. I know the Lions still have Aiden Hutchinson to deal with, but I still think that the Ravens are sitting pretty. Lots of good things to talk about in this upcoming matchup. I'm very excited for it. M&T Bank Stadium, Monday Night Football, but we could be seeing some fireworks in this upcoming matchup.
Yeah, and look, obviously fireworks from Lamar Jackson and the Lions themselves, by the way. I think everybody almost had them buried after that week 1 game against the Packers. Then they showed up against the Bears in week 2 and said, that's funny, and put up a 50 burger on that Bears team. Now, obviously, I think, Sam, we can all be in agreement here and everybody watching and listening that the Lions are a lot better than the Browns and the Ravens are a lot better than the Bears. So 2 matchups, or I guess 2 teams in 1 matchup is going to be really, really exciting. But, we can talk Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and Kyle Hamilton and all the stars, but I want to focus on the rookies here because we know that the Ravens needed big contributions and will need big contributions from this rookie class over the course of this season. We've seen that so far through the first 2 weeks. And honestly, Sam, there's going to be even more responsibility in my eyes on this rookie class in week number 3. I think obviously what everybody's talking about right now is the fact that Kyle Van Noy is expected to be sidelined for a couple of weeks with that hamstring injury. Of course, we don't have anything official. It's just reports right now, but we know how the Ravens operate. John Harbaugh does not want to reveal anything when it comes to those injuries. So what does that mean? Obviously, Mike Green would be elevated into more of a full-time role. He has provided some splash plays for the Ravens, or almost splash plays. That first sack would have been so sweet if it was against Joe Flacco, but just barely missed out. Of course, he's a rookie, so we've seen some ups, we've seen some downs. We actually talked about this with Nick Moore. I talked about it with him on the episode we had yesterday. Nick joined me, and we talked about John Harbaugh giving Mike Green and the rookie class a stamp of approval here. Said that during the game, Harbaugh saw improvement from where he was in quarter 1 versus quarter 4. Mike Green, Sam, how big of an impact do you think that he has to have against this Detroit offense that, again, has a lot of firepower on it, much more than we saw Cleveland bring to the table in week 2?
No, it's a massive undertaking. It's huge, especially for this Lions offense that is explosive. We've seen this not just this year, but in previous seasons. Jared Goff, very similar in play style to Joe Flacco. The only difference is the Browns have a lesser offensive line than the Lions do, in my opinion. Obviously, there's some holes there that the Ravens can exploit, but it's really going to be about Mike Green getting that penetration, winning his one-on-ones, and it getting to the quarterback, trying the best to hurry things up. Doesn't have to be a sack. We saw last week, Mike Green getting there, just disrupting things, getting the flow of this offense, disrupt it a little bit, make sure it's not, as oiled and ready to go as we saw that last week against the Bears. So, yeah, Mike Green has a huge, huge task ahead of him. I know the Ravens are going to maybe try and put in Tavius Robinson a little bit more, but we're going to see a lot more Mike Green than we expected, a lot earlier than we expected. He needs to grow up fast if the Ravens have a chance to win this game.
If you just say Mike Green's name 10 times, Mike Green, 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 a loud Kadri smile just appears. It's just like he knows. It's just like he knows. He just knows who we're talking about. Q. It's the Mike Green signal, and Q's all right. I know where I need to be, and he shows up when you need him. He's got that telepathy. Q. How are you feeling about Mike Green? Because again, Calvin only expected to miss that time. Mike Green's going to take on a much bigger role here, it appears.
Yeah, the bottom line is the more reps he's getting, the better he's going to play. And so I think for one man's issue is another man's blessing. Obviously, KVN is going to be missed because he's a talented veteran. He's made plays for the Ravens and a leader on the defense. But when you have a young player, very talented, ready to go, I think the more repetitions he gets at playing and recognizing what his skill sets can or cannot do and what moves works and what moves do not work, I think it's going to benefit Mike Green and it's going to benefit the Ravens defense. So I think this is a good problem to have because it's early in the year. An early in the year scenario means that you're going to eventually get KVN back healthy. And when he gets back healthy, you're going to have a more experienced Mike Green. Therefore, it's only going to make your team better.
Yeah, it's extremely important. And obviously, the Ravens on the defensive side of the ball, there are a lot of guys who are currently playing for them in big roles on the defense. And one of the guys that we didn't really know if he was going to play a lot of snaps or how that was going to go, Teddy Buchanan ends up playing a major role in that Week 2 game. And obviously, he is someone that now appears to have that role. It's in his hand now. It's his. And he surpasses Trenton Simpson. Saw some positives, certainly, from Teddy on Sunday against the Browns. And obviously, as a rookie, he is still learning as he goes. And it's not going to be perfect for him. But he talked a little bit today. He had a press conference, a little media scrum. And, he talked about his strengths and weaknesses. And, he said knowing what his job is and playing really hard. He said he's super versatile. And, he talked about even the jump between training camp, preseason, regular season, MQ, and Q. I'm sure you know that firsthand about kind of the levels that it takes every single step of the way up until the regular season. And Q, I'll start with you here about Teddy. What are your expectations for him, kind of now knowing that he's almost settled into that spot? He's had a week of a big role under his belt, and now he's going up against. Look, if you want to just talk about the running back room there, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, that's a hard duel to stop.
Extremely hard duel to stop. They have that explosive slashing style. They get into the secondary, and now all of a sudden they can go from third gear all the way up to fifth gear in a heartbeat. They're explosive runners. They want to run the football. They want to be that team that is creating havoc on your defense by controlling the clock, making those strategic big plays a la the receiving core and what Jared Goff does. But, man, that running game, those are some talented running backs. Now, for Buchanan, I think it's just about playing what you know to do. Don't try to do extra. Don't try to be something that you're not. And I think as long as he maintains that level of, okay, I know this is my assignment. I know these are my keys. I'm going to go out there with reckless abandon because I'm so well prepared. That's going to give him the advantage. That's going to give him the edge. It's when you try to do too much. It's when you overthink it or you just didn't prepare. That's the kiss of death, if you will, when it comes to playing Pro Bowl, no matter what position. I think Teddy Buchanan has earned the right to be that guy that can show the consistency that the Ravens defense need to play opposite of Roquan. I got your back. You got my back. Let's go out and play.
Yeah, I think it's really awesome that the Ravens decided to make this move when they did. I think we talked about it in the preseason when we saw kind of the discrepancy between Trenton Simpson's play and Teddy Buchanan's, and we thought, okay, well, by the middle of the season, we could be seeing the switch. Nope, they were not going to wait. They went ahead and did it right then and there. The snap count, I believe, 60-15 in terms of the production for these two guys. So very excited to see what Buchanan can do. Obviously, his skill set is perfect for what Roquan does. You saw with him on the field, Roquan was better. He's able to go be that thumper, be able to attack the line of scrimmage, be able to attack those flats. So very happy to see these two connect, and good job on the first go around. Again, different beast here in week 3 against Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. It's going to be very interesting to see with Buchanan's smaller frame, whether or not he's able to handle the power of Montgomery and the speed. I think he'll be able to match with Gibbs, but overall, I think it's going to be great for him to get this thing done. I think inside linebacker, football's football, everything's difficult, but I think it's a lot easier for him to use his instincts, and just as well as you play within the framework of your defense, you can make some plays. So very excited for Buchanan. Happy the decision was made, and I think it was the right call.
Yeah, we saw some of the ability for him really pop off of the charts, and it's been apparent that Roquan has missed that guy. Roquan has missed Patrick Queen. I think we can also that he's missed having a guy like Patrick Queen next to him, someone who you can trust, and that's something you both talked about there. It's 100% correct. And I think also when you're able to trust what's behind you, it also makes things a lot easier. And we've seen Malachi Starks not really necessarily make a huge box score impact. He had the interception bounce off of his hands in that week 1 game against the Bills, but the Ravens are asking him to play a lot of deep safety for them. And that's something that Malachi can excel at with his fluid movement, his ability to close really quickly. We've seen a couple of those plays where he's covered a lot of ground getting to balls and either forcing incompletions or getting guys down. So Sam, I'll start with you on this one, because I know you're the Malachi guy here. What have you seen from Malachi? Because I know that sometimes box scores can be deceiving, and I think that's probably the case here with what Malachi's bringing to the table.
Yeah, I'm a big Malachi guy, and I think that, he is asked to play that deep safety role, and it's helped the defense overall. He has been targeted a little bit. I think the Browns did target him quite a bit with the Fannin over there, and Njoku as well. But I think overall, he's perfect for this defense. He's exactly where he needs to be. He's not going to be the guy that causes the big play, which is exactly what the Ravens want. I think it'll come. Again, right now, even though he understands the playbook, it's very hard to play football as a rookie, especially in that starting role right off the back, especially when you're asked to be that guy that's covering either the best tight end in the team or being the last line of defense for your team. So I think the plays will come. I never expected him to have 10 interceptions this season. I just wanted him to be exactly where he needed to be and not be the cause of the big play. And so far, so good for him. So he's going to have to be even more so that, because the Lions, I think, are even better than the Bills in terms of making that big play. Jared Goff is going to sit there. He's going to make sure that he gets every opportunity to make that big play. That's what Dan Campbell and his Lions team is all about. So it's going to be incumbent upon Malachi Starks to not be the guy that causes the big play.
I think one thing that Malachi, as I look back on it and I'm looking at the Browns game, Joe Flacco has the big arm. That his desire to push the ball down the field is what makes Joe Flacco Joe Flacco. That even Josh Allen has a cannon for an arm and definitely likes to create some mismatches and big plays. Neither offensive coordinator really challenged Malachi Starks, and I think that's a good thing, in that Malachi is sitting there and like, all right, I know I'm going to be challenged. I know I'm going to be in a position where I can easily be the guy that they're looking at as the weak link. But to his credit, he did not show that, and he stood tall. He was, second in the team in tackles. Were tied for second in the team with 4. So again, you look at 4 solo and then 3 assists, you combine for 7 total. Like that's awesome. That's what you want. You want to have a guy that, if your job is to be that last line of defense, Go ahead, step it up. Good for Malachi Starks. I think that, yes, we would love to have seen him get the interception against Josh Allen. That would have been all well and good. But I know this to be true. It's going to come. It's going to come in bunches. I have no doubt Malachi Starks going to be just fine in his role in this dynamic defense.
Yeah, and it should expand. It should grow. And again, he's doing fine right now, I think, too. So he's someone that I think will continue to make an impact, and the Ravens need him to. They need all their rookies to do that. And so hopefully we'll continue to see that, especially against a really good Detroit team in week number 3. But coming up in the second part of the show, Jeudy just will not stop talking. He just, it's just, I guess he just can't do it. So we'll talk about what he had to say and put a bow on that Ravens and Browns game from week 2, all that and a lot more coming up on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. First, this show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. You got player props, building same-game parlays, or even just jumping into the action live as it unfolds. It makes every game even more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, and it's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energies to your Sundays. And obviously the Ravens will be playing on Monday against the Detroit Lions. And over on FanDuel right now, the Ravens are 5.5 home favorites in this game. And I like that. Again, the Lions are a good team. I expect it to be a really good game, but I think the Ravens roster, the talent that they have, and maybe some of the guys are even going to get back from injury, that could prove to be the difference. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Back here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show, Kevin Oestreicher, Sam Njoku, Kadri Ismail. We're all diving into Ravens covers and content with you ahead of the Ravens' big Week 3 game against the Detroit Lions. Again, we're here for you twice a week on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show on Wednesdays and after games. So usually that's Sundays, but again, this week it will be Monday. We also have the regular Locked On Ravens show with myself. That's 5 days per week. And of course, all the other Ravens content and coverage we got for you on a daily basis here on the Locked On Ravens podcast. Now, Jeudy, guys, I don't know. I thought we were done with this talking point. We haven't gotten quite to the level of talking about Deontay Johnson every other month, but we're, hopefully this is the last we hear of it. Spoiler alert, guys, we probably are. This is probably not that, because the Ravens and the Browns will play again later in the season. So we know that Jeudy had some choice words about the Ravens secondary before this game, said that there were no challenges in terms of what they presented. Jeudy then went out there to put up a very pedestrian 4-catch for 51-yard stat line. He had a drop in there that honestly cost the Browns 3 points. And so he was asked leading up to their game against, I forget who they were playing this week, but regardless, their week 3 game, he was asked, hey, that Ravens secondary, it looked like you guys were kind of clamped up a little bit. And then Jeudy kind of interrupted him and said, do you watch the film? And the guy goes, no, I didn't watch the film. And Jeudy goes, watch the film, then come back to me. And I saw Sam, you responded, and Sam, you said, yeah, I did watch the film. And so I'll start with you, Sam. What did you see on the film? Because what you saw in the regular game feed was not a lot of impact by those Browns receivers, and Jeudy did not really back up that talk.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to say that he wasn't open sometimes, but obviously Joe Flacco's not the quarterback that's going to get you the ball when you're open all the time, and not a lot of quarterbacks are going to be able to do that. But when he was given an opportunity to make those plays, he was dropping passes. TJ Tampa was getting over there and clamping things up for him. So I think the notion that there weren't any challenges a little, it's false. But I understand where he was coming from coming into the game. You don't want to be that team that's going to go, or that player that says, oh, yeah, they're the better team. I'm just going to lay down and take the beating. So I get where he's coming from. He should just let it go. I think hopefully this is the last we hear from him. Let your play speak for you when you come into M&T Bank Stadium, because you're not going to do well. I know he saw the Bills game and said, oh, I got some opportunities here. But that's simply not going to be the case with this Ravens team 9 times out of 10.
He had one catch that was a long of 26 yards. I'll give him that. Good. Outside of that, he had a subpar day. Talk about being clutch and needing to be the go-to guy and make a play that's going to help your team put points on the board. You drop the ball. I think this is where, for him, he was targeted some 8 times and just didn't look like the guy that was saying, oh, the secondary was just mid. If anybody was mid, it was Jeudy. He did not have nowhere near the game that to talk smack. He should have talked smack. Like he just didn't. And if I'm Joe Flacco, I'm like, yo, bro, let a sleeping dog lie next time because the mugs was coming after me. And when I was trying to get the ball out to you, you sure the heck didn't step up. What's up with that?
Yeah, it's definitely. I feel like he's gonna say something else, and it'll just continue. But again, the Ravens got the win. They got it pretty handily, and part of that, in fact, a lot of that was because of the Ravens defense and special teams too. By the way, special teams made a couple of impact plays throughout the game here. But just to kind of put a bow on that game from Sunday, guys, I still can't believe that. With the start that the offense had and some of the sputterings that they went through, they still were able to put up 41 or I guess 34 if you want to count Roquan's touchdown as a defensive points, 34 points as a whole. Lamar, we know, has the highest passer rating in NFL history now, just edging out Aaron Rodgers and all the other stats that, are historic from Lamar. This is an offense that even when the run game isn't working, usually like a while ago, early Greg Roman days, that was the bread and butter. And if that wasn't working, and it wasn't always the case because Lamar could come back, but it was a very low volume passing offense. And not that it's not like Lamar's throwing 40 passes a game or 45 passes a game in this offense, but you would kind of worry a little bit if that run game wasn't working. Well, the Browns, the talk that they did back up was stopping Derrick Henry and making him just not a factor in the game. What's your evaluation of the offense, guys, so far? Q, I'll start with you here because we've seen an offensive explosion in week 1 against Buffalo. And then you could arguably call it another offensive explosion because they put up 34 points again, but it was just very different because clearly there were times where Lamar was going behind guys before he was able to get into a rhythm. We saw the offensive line have some struggles, particularly against Myles Garrett. This offense is going to be a strength for the entire season, but what's your evaluation through 2 games?
So I looking at the stats here, the third down stat is like the big one. That's the one where obviously if you convert, you're staying on the field. And usually when you have a really good third down percentage and a good red zone production, you're going to be balling out. Well, red zone production wise, they were 3 or 4. So every time they got in the red zone, they were doing something. And when you look at the third down production, they were only 3 of 12. So they were moving the ball, but on third down, when you needed to keep a drive alive, that's where it didn't work out. They only ran 53 plays. And so the bigger picture to me is that you're seeing them have their explosive moments, but then they're also having that consistency not show up. I think those explosive moments are just a direct correlation to the brilliance of Lamar Jackson. I think if we look at some of the plays in which he, like the one to D-Hop, again, that route combination, the ball could have, would have, should have been out of his hands, but they're really, credit the defense for the Browns. Jim Schwartz, he did an excellent job of mixing it up. D-Hop and company were covered. However, the brilliance of Lamar Jackson, the escapability, the eye still down the field, and when he scrambled to extend the play and then locked back in on D-Hop, my goodness, the throw was incredible. And so it allowed for his player to make that play, and off you go. The touch in which he threw the ball to Tylan Wallace, they set that play up by motioning Tylan in and having him get out there and get the linebacker. They come back with that same action, and that's credit to Todd Monken. One play builds upon another, and now you're seeing just a cool, quick play action. But the throw, again, was just amazing to Tylan, and it was just a dot of a throw. Jaire could have had a one-arm catch that was right just beautifully in his grasp that unfortunately couldn't hang on to. Mark Andrews had a beautiful play that we've seen Mark Andrews make those contested catches, didn't make that contested catch. My point is that there was a lot of offense left on the field. We know that there's the struggles off the offensive line. We think that that defensive front is just like, my God, man. I mean, them dudes are no joke. They can ball, and they don't hold a backseat to anyone. So the struggles of the offensive line, the brilliance of Lamar Jackson, you wind up getting this kind of roller coaster effect of third down doesn't look so good. Red zone efficiency probably should have been 100%. But yet you got, Tyler Luke doing Luke things and kicking the ball through the upright for it. But I think in my mind, there's more that could be done. And you're right, Kevin, 34 points is an awful lot. But that goes to show you our expectation of this offense. If we're complaining like, oh, you put up 34, oh, come on, 34 points. Like, what are we doing here? Like, that to me is it's a darn good problem to have. But against the Lions, we're going to be testing and seeing. Against the Rams, we're going to be testing and seeing. Against the Chiefs, we're going to be testing and seeing. Like, you know what I'm saying? We got these games that are coming up that are kind of every game raises the bar. I'm glad they got it done against Cleveland. I kind of expected a division opponent to have that kind of back and forth tug of war, but 53 plays is not going to cut it. And you shouldn't have to have Lamar put on his Superman cape every single time. I think that's something that will be on notice in these next few weeks.
Yeah, if the Ravens had the run game going in this game, it would have been a massacre. But it's good to know you got Lamar Jackson. It doesn't matter what's going on, your offensive line, you're getting pressure up the blind side, you're getting pressure up front. Lamar Jackson's going to be the guy to get the job done. And we talked about this in the offseason. Now, this offense is, and this roster in general is just from top to bottom stacked. So this is a team that when you go ahead and you sell yourself to stop the run, I'm not saying that the Browns did that. I think the front four did a good job of getting the pressure without sending the blitz. But even with that, knowing that you have a guy like Lamar Jackson and knowing that you have weapons now that are matured and you can count on DeAndre Hopkins, a guy who we thought was washed but isn't washed whatsoever. He just is another piece in this offense that, you don't need to focus on. You can't focus on DeAndre Hopkins when you got Zay Flowers going across the middle, when you got Rashad Bateman doing post moves, and just you can't cover them all. You can't double team them all. So you leave DeAndre Hopkins one-on-one, and Lamar's going to throw it to him every single time. So I'm very impressed with this offense. They feel like they're in midseason form. I think that if that offensive line gets their act together, again, I'm going to put this as an aberration because what we saw from the Browns the first 2 weeks of the season is really impressive. I'm not sure if the Lions can mimic that, or any team outside maybe the Eagles can mimic what the Browns were able to do on Sunday. So we'll see what happens in this upcoming matchup. But yeah, this offense is superb. I think as long as you keep Lamar Jackson healthy, upright, the sky's the limit for this offense. It's not going to be an issue. It'll be the defense. What can this defense do to turn up the pressure, continue to perform as they did? Jaire Alexander having a week off. Did they bring him in this week with injuries to Marlon, Humphrey, and company? Do you have that confidence in him? I think you do. So we'll see what happens with this defense. But I like what I saw in week one. I like even better what I saw in week two because this is a team that dealt with some adversity and was able to come back and pile it on the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, look, the consensus here is we all agree. If you can put up 34 points on what is quote unquote an off day, and you're not reaching your full potential, and the Browns did a really good job of stopping the run, I mean, you're set up for success, and you have all the firepower in the world that you need there to run with anybody. It's the other teams, can they run with you? And the answer most of the time is probably going to be no to that question. But coming up in the third part of the show, we'll move ahead to the Detroit Lions game, preview that a little bit, and talk about an advantage the Lions might be trying to get by bringing in a former Raven. So be sure to stay tuned. We got plenty coming your way on the Locked On Ravens Squad show. This episode is brought to you by Mazda and brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. And so for me, this week's moment that moved the game forward, you got to go back to week 2. And I'm going to give Jake Hummel a shout out here. Special teams, Ravens and Browns are tugging for who's going to pick up the momentum. It's an AFC North slugfest, and Jake Hummel comes through the middle and just boom, blocks that punt, gives the Ravens great field position. The offense puts up 6 points with it. And you have to feel like that was the moment that really turned the game. And for the Ravens, that's how they themselves, they move forward there. And so that was a really positive moment in the game for the Ravens. And I think that really gave the fan base some life. It gave the team some life. And I think we saw for the remainder of that game how they were able to move forward with that. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Back here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show, Kevin Oestreicher, Kadri Ismail, Sam Njoku, still talking Ravens football. And we now have our guest who is behind the screen. We're going to bring him on. He is none other than Ravens long snapper / tech genius, Mr. Nick Moore. Nick, how you doing? I gave this. I appreciate it. Shout out, man.
That was huge. That was huge, man. No, I appreciate you guys having me on again. Love coming on here talking some ball, so I'm excited.
I love it, man. And look, you and I talked for Tuesday's episode. We recorded Monday night for that. And, you know, we talked a lot about the game, how it went, how obviously special teams defense impacted that. We talked about Lamar a lot as well. But I want to flip the page and kind of look ahead to week 3 here, because you got the Monday night. It's under the lights. And firsthand for you being a member of the team and going through, you know, you're running out on the field and then the lights are going crazy and all the game presentation crew over there at the Ravens, they do a phenomenal job setting the scene. Obviously it's all blacks, right? It's all black uniforms this week.
Yeah.
Is that's what it, I mean,
yes, sir.
I know
darkness falls as they claim it to be.
We've ranked your uniforms in the past, obviously on the Ripken show, and kind of diving into that. All blacks, for the people who don't know where the all blacks fall on your uniform rankings, where are those? And then you obviously got to give us the top one. Baby. That's right. There you go.
1. Black is slimming, they say on the camera. So I need all the help I can get.
Oh man, I love it. Key, what was your favorite Raven combo when you played? Did you have one?
Oh God, it's the easiest one. It's the one we won the Super Bowl in. We had the all whites. We had the white jersey, purple numbers, white pants with the stripes down the side of the pants. And if it were up to me, I would have had the solid purple sock with the white at the very bottom. However, David Modell, rest in peace, he somehow loved like the stripe on the sock. I was like, bro, you're not getting it. You're just not the good fashion police. So we would go back and forth. But I think bigger picture wise, David Modell, by the way, former owner of the Ravens, and he and his dad, there would be no Ravens if it wasn't for the Modell family. But with that said, yes, give me some all black though in current day, because man, there's something just to be said about the fierceness and the way in which this team just brings it when you got the all blacks on.
Yeah. Sam, I know you and I have not put on a Ravens uniform, run out in that tunnel and played a snap for this team, but do you have a preference in terms of which ones you think? The color rush ones, by the way, those I think are controversial. Some people love them. Some people don't. Are you color rush fan, Sam? Is that where you go, or are you somewhere else?
I do like the color rush, and my favorite is the all black, obviously. But my second favorite would be the white one on top with the black pants. Those ones look pretty good. They usually do that on the road, and I just like going to hostile environments and just taking over. So all of those primetime games with the white and black bottoms usually get me amped up. But clearly, the all black is my favorite.
Yeah, and the atmosphere is set for Monday night. It's going to be electric, and obviously I know for the Ravens and Lions, they're two really good teams. We talked about that throughout the show here, but Nick, I want to get your thoughts on this because obviously every team is trying to find a way to stop Lamar Jackson. They're trying to find every little advantage they can, and obviously made a lot more news than I thought it would of the Lions signing Malik Cunningham to their practice squad. Obviously, I think with him being a former quarterback, obviously switched over to wide receiver, everybody's assuming, oh, he's going to be the quote unquote, like Lamar Jackson of practice for the Lions, right? They're going to try to replicate that in practice. Now, we've heard many coaches across the league say there is no replicating that man. That man is his own beast, and he does what he does. And it was funny. Zay, I don't know if you saw Zay's story earlier today. He posted and said, "I'm watching you, Malik." Like he said, "But congrats, man, and go do your thing." It was a in jest little "I'm watching you" type thing. But when you watch Lamar at practice, I mean, I'm sure there are so many stories about Lamar that you have seen firsthand in practice of him just doing crazy stuff that maybe even excels beyond what we've seen on the field from him. I mean, when you're trying to replicate that as a team, I feel like that's very difficult to do, especially when you know that Lamar Jackson is so unique in so many different ways.
I'm honestly not sure if it's even possible to replicate that, because I don't know anyone on the planet that has that combination of speed, arm talent, understanding of the offense. Like, he's just such a threat. Like, you don't – I mean, obviously the Lions have played against him a few times over the last handful of years, and they've got experience with him, and they're great. They got a great defense and a great team overall. But it's just so difficult because we've never seen what he can do in the past, and I don't know if there's anybody out there on the street. Like, I mean, Malik, God love him. I mean, he's one of Lamar's boys, played quarterback at Louisville after Lamar, but he ain't played quarterback in 2 years. Like, I don't know if that's their strategy. I hope for his sake it's not, because I thought he was making some really good strides when it came to wide receiver and playing on special teams. I hope for his sake, he deserves an opportunity to play in this league, and he's definitely capable of doing that. And I hope he gets a legit opportunity out there to continue the work that he was doing in Baltimore the last 2 years. So, hopefully for him, it's fair, but it's real. But if it's, if he's going in there, he's probably one of the closest guys, just because he knows Lamar really well. He studied from him in college when he was at Louisville. He came here as a quarterback. He was with Lamar the last couple of seasons. He's like, they're basically they're like best friends. So he knows him probably better than anyone other than, I would say, Snoop, when it came to how he plays quarterback. But again, I just don't know if it's even possible to replicate that. I mean, what he does is what people do on Madden, where they make their quarterback 99 speed and a 99 accuracy and throwing power. Like, it's just not something you can just pull off the street and be like, hey, yeah, we need somebody to come in here and practice being Lamar. Like, it's just not possible. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're going to have a great game plan. They're a great team, so it's going to be a great matchup. But, they're going to have their hands full with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because we get so caught up in the brilliance of Lamar. It's the players that are around him that I think, looking back at the game this past week, there were some breakdowns, and Lamar being able to use his brilliance to overcome said breakdowns. But that's where I think, to get to those upper tiers that I believe you guys are capable of going, it's going to take other players to do what they need to do to be successful. Clearly, you have a Hall of Famer in your backfield with the Lamar, with Derrick Henry. But then at the same time, you're also looking at an offensive line that I think can settle in and be a lot more consistent, as well as, yeah, there are opportunities on the outside to continue to get Bateman more involved into the offense, to get, not that he was quiet, but he hasn't really had those big splash numbers that we've been used to seeing in Mark Andrews. I think there's more. That's the exciting part about it, because we can speak for days on the brilliance of Lamar, but it's the other players that are surrounding him. So if I am Detroit, yeah, sure, I guess we can try to play spy ball, if you will, and bring in Malik Cunningham and make it, seem like he's going to give us some great intel. But the X factor is what you think and how to go about stopping a brilliant N of one is next to impossible.
Yeah, I agree completely. Nick, I want to ask you, is there a Is there any credence to the fact they're bringing in a guy from another team, getting info from them? Is there any advantage to that whatsoever? I feel like there isn't because the game plan changes week to week, but you know more than me.
I mean, you see it all across the league all the time. I mean, we've done it in the past. I mean, I'm sure we've had. I mean, you look at the Steelers; they brought in, not that they brought them in to game plan us, but they got PQ, they got Malik Harrison. Like it's just it kind of happens, and that's just the nature of the league. Guys are trying to find their home and all that stuff. I just don't know like how beneficial it is because it's not like we're hiding any. The only thing that they're going to get that they can't see on tape is maybe like calls, like if somebody knows like the cadence calls or like the slide calls or whatever, but like we don't hide, like it's not like we're hiding off the tape, like it's all out there. What we're gonna do, like we're okay if you know it. Now it's your job to figure out a way to stop us, and it's really hard to do. And across the league, I mean, you see it, time and time again. I just don't know if there's any value that you're going to get unless it's like, from a special team standpoint, like, oh, what are they trying to accomplish on kickoffs, or what is their primary return on kickoff return? It's not like we don't already know that. Or like what are these guys punts? Like what kind of different punts does he have? Do they work on things in practice that we can't see on game tape? But at the end of the day, I mean, it's all out there. Everybody sees it. You watch the clips time and time and time again. I mean, I've seen all, for instance, the Lions have had 7 punt returns this year. They've rushed 6 of them. I've watched them 100. I've honestly probably watched them 50 times each already. And it's only Wednesday and we don't play till Monday. So it's like, you don't really need somebody to come in and like pick up something that you're not going to know already by just watching the tape. And there's a history, especially with like what we do on offense, what we've done on special teams. There's receipts because Monk's been our offensive coordinator this is his 3rd season. Lamar's been the quarterback here since 2019. Like we've been doing the same thing on special teams outside of the kickoff return game, forever since Harbs has been coaching in the NFL. Like it's not like there's any secrets. So, if they think they're getting an advantage, then, we do the same thing. I mean, it just is what it is. But at the end of the day, you got to study the tape and you got to learn the ins and outs of the other team based on what they're doing, their tendencies and all that you're going to pick up on the tape.
I just think it's such a clandestine type business that it cracked me up because like somehow, some way, game plan wise, the Tennessee Titans got our game plan when we were going down there. And that was the reason why we were having such a difficult time playing against them, but we pulled it out and beat them. At the same time, we clearly know from a Spygate aspect of how Bill Belichick kind of matched up certain calls on the sideline with certain plays. So you kind of had that anticipation, but you're absolutely right. Like, with those outliers set aside, ultimately it does come down to me versus you, whether or not you studied up and how you studied up to get a tell or some level of nuance. Like I know there has been reports where certain long snappers, they have these certain tells when they go ahead and get ready to do the ball back to their either holder or punter. And now all of a sudden the guy gets a jump on it. So I don't know if Malik was looking at saying, oh, I can see where Nick's right butt cheek, when it squeezes just so much and his left pointer finger gets ready to snap it, that's when you know.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely tendencies like that. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff you do, as a player that you're not necessarily like aware of. Like your body, you're kind of just out there, you're playing, like there's little micro movements that you do that you can't really feel you're doing them because it's not part of the routine. It just kind of happens. And there are those things across, we look for those. I watch, my job every week is to, like, for instance, last week I was watching the Detroit Lions long snapper, trying to pick up on anything that he has, or, vice versa. And I do that every week. I'm always watching the long snappers, trying to pick up tells and, what their tendencies are and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you still got to beat me. Like, even if you get the jump, like, you still got to be able to win man on man. A lot of times we don't shy away from that fact. We're like, this is what we do, figure out how to beat us, because right now it's working. And that's just, I feel like that's the mentality of a lot of people across the league, because everyone believes in themselves and they know how hard that they work and all the stuff that they're putting in to get to that point. And so they're not afraid to be like, yeah, this is what we do. Like, if it's a pass rush guy, for instance, on punt, I watch like whether or not, like, what foot is up, what hands in the ground, if they cross phase versus if they go straight. But like, they don't care. They're like, dude, I put my inside foot up when I'm going to cross your face, and I put my outside foot up the other way around, if I'm going to run straight. You still got to block me. You know what I mean? And it's hard, it's hard. And so that's, you look for those things to kind of give you a little bit of an edge. But at the end of the day, when the lights are on and the game is being played, it's mano a mano, and you still got to get the job done, regardless of what cheat secret that you know.
Yeah, you could have every advantage in the world in terms of, I know this about you and I know that about you, but if you can't match up with a guy, then you're going to lose every single time. So it is what it is. And again, you got two good football teams playing each other on Monday night, and coming up, we'll continue to dive into a little preview of that Lions and Ravens game. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty coming your way on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. First, this show is brought to you by Gametime. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It can be frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. And for me, I pulled up Gametime, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. And the app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I love zone deals too. You pick the section and Gametime picks the seat, and you save big. Plus, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets before. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, it's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Moving right along on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show, Kevin Oestreicher, Sam Njoku, Ravens long snapper Nick Moore, and former Ravens receiver Kaiju Ismail. We are all still here with you talking Ravens football, and you can see all three of these guys on the regular Locked On Ravens show too. Everybody has their own day. We get all the content out, all the coverage out, and of course, we're all excited for that Monday night game against the Detroit Lions. But Nick, you talked about watching the Lions long snapper and trying to obviously figure out as much as you can heading into that Monday night game. What's your assessment right now of the Lions special teams unit? Obviously, they have a great kicker over there. The unit itself, they're going to look for any advantage they can as well. But what do you take away from what the Lions have done over the first couple of weeks of the season, and honestly, just the rep that those guys have?
The Lions their special teams is a mirror image of their head coach. They play physical. They play aggressive. They got a lot of they got a lot of veterans on their special teams. They got what I would say they got a lot of money in their special teams, and they show it on the field. They got a lot of experience. They got guys that have been around the league a long time, that they played a lot of football, and they're aggressive in all facets. I mean, for instance, I said it earlier, they've had 7 punt returns this year. They've rushed the punt 6 times. Most teams rush once, maybe twice a game. Like last week, we had 5 punts. The Browns rushed twice. The week before, we had 3. The Bills didn't rush at all. So they're an aggressive unit. They're really, really talented. They've made a lot of plays over the last year or so. And, obviously the kicker's really good there. Their punter has been one of the best punters in the league, in Jack Fox. And their long snapper is in his second year, and he's done some really good things in his first year. And he's a guy that I kind of talked to a little bit last year coming out of college. And I thought last year he played really well. And he's a very fast – he's probably the fastest long snapper of all of us. He's a young kid. He's made some tackles last season. He's done some really good things. And so we got a challenge for us. And we have a young squad. Our special teams, we got a lot of younger players, second, third, first-year players. So, we got a big task ahead of us, and we're going to be prepping. We did some practice stuff today, and we're going to get into it hardcore tomorrow. And, we're going to have our hands full, but that's what it's all about. I mean, we pride ourselves on being the best special teams unit in the National Football League, and I think we've done some really good things to start the season in the first 2 games. But, every week I feel like the challenge gets higher and higher because you start stacking good games, and the expectation is there to continue to do that. And this is going to be a big test for us to see where we're at. It's going to force these young guys to really grow up and dive into it and really focus on their job and do what they're supposed to do against some really good players. So I'm excited for us. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to get us all some really good experience, and it's going to show a lot of these guys that they can handle what I would consider one of the better units in all of football.
It's interesting. I saw while you were out there playing, we up in the press box have the luxury of having all these screens up, and we were watching all these different games. And you and I talked about it after the game in the locker room where the Steelers player, the returner, number 20, I think he's a rookie. He thought that because he didn't touch the kickoff return, that the ball went over his head, it went into the end zone. He literally went jogging to the sideline. Seattle kept running, recovers it into the end zone. Referee puts up his hand. Hey, it's a touchdown. With that said, scenarios, plays like that, situational football, how often do you go over it and remind one another of, hey, these things come up. We got to make sure we're on top of it so it doesn't come to bite us in the butt?
Honestly, I would say every day. I think one of the things that we've done really well here is prepare for situational football. Harbs obviously has a huge background in special teams, but across the board with all phases of the game, we practice situational stuff every single day. We watch plays of the week on special teams on Fridays and Saturdays. We see everything that happens in the league that is a situation like that, which I'm sure we're going to watch on Friday because there's so many things that could come up in the game. A lot of the stuff rarely comes up. Like that we've been doing this kickoff now for a year and some change. That is the first time that's happened. We are taught, we teach our returners, you have to field and down every single ball. If you're not going to return it, you got to pick it up, you got to take a knee in the end zone, and you got to hand the ball to the referee. And that's every single ball. And we do that stuff. I mean, on Fridays, like our Friday type special teams practice, it is all situational stuff. It's onsides, it's hands team, it's practicing backed up punts, it's practicing, all the different stuff that could possibly come up. And even things like punt after safety, like all the things that, or take a safety slow on punt, like the things that come up in the Ravens history. The last time a punt after or take a safety slow happened was, do you guys know when the last time we took a safety slow in a real game?
Was it the Super Bowl?
Was it Bengals, Cincinnati, or was it the Super Bowl?
Super Bowl in 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, Super Bowl. Yeah, okay. I'm like, what?
That was 13 years ago? Yeah. So that play hasn't come up in a long time. And we saw last year, the first time that since 1978, I think it was, where they had a fair catch free kick. And those are the types of things that we practice because you never know when they're going to come up. And the last thing you want is for that to show up and nobody knows what to do. So it's like we're sitting there like, why are we doing this? Because it's never going to happen. And then sure enough, it happens in a game last year and the Chargers execute it and make the field goal. And so we're always prepping for that stuff because it's so important. Because when those plays happen, they're like huge plays in the game. They're either huge momentum swings for you or against you, and you need to be ready for those moments. So our coaches do a great job of keeping us on top of all that stuff and really giving us, because we don't know, like on Fridays, we know that like there's going to be situational stuff that comes up, but we don't know exactly what situations are going to come up. So then we're in the middle of, we've done 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 punts in a row, and all of a sudden, hey, we got take a safety slow. We got into game, all out rush type thing. What are we going to do? And like just getting prepared for that in the practice really helps when we move into the game for when those moments do come. Because like we had one of the situations we practice all the time is the into half punt where we had this past week, which is almost a guarantee that we're going to get an all out rush. And so we all got to be ready. Punter's got to know he's got to get the punt off quick. We got to have the gunners ready just in case they bring the corners in. We got to bring them in. And so we're practicing that stuff constantly. And when they come up, we're going to be ready to rock for those.
You guys blocked a punt, and that totally changed the momentum of the game. Like, talk about the excitement, talk about the rarity of that.
Yeah.
And like, good God, man, like the excitement / next day meetings. And I've been in those special teams meetings. And when you're looking as an entire team, like, bro, you must have felt like 10 feet tall. Like, yeah, that's our guy right there blocking the punt. Wasn't the offense, wasn't the defense that created this momentum. It was us. You must have felt pretty good about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great play by Jay Kummel, and he's got a history of doing that. He did it last year for the Rams. And I said this, I don't remember, Kev, if it was with you or if it was on the Ripken show, but there's such an art to blocking punts. It's a very difficult thing to do. For instance, we haven't had a blocked punt that stayed behind the line of scrimmage since 2016.
Yeah.
So that's 9 years or basically 10 seasons since we've had a legitimate blocked punt. Now, we've had some tips here and there over the years, but it's so difficult to do something like that. And it's such a rare thing that happens that when it does happen, I mean, you could just feel the energy on the sideline just like boiling. And it was just like, we don't have a choice but to score. And then we go and score in 2 plays. And it totally gets us going because we were kind of stagnant there for a little while on offense. And then something like that happens, and then it's a deflating effect if you're the one getting blocked, like a couple years ago when the Steelers blocked one for a safety against us. It's kind of a deflating thing when you're when you're the team that gets blocked. But when you're a team that does the blocking, that is a massive, massive boost because it's such a huge play. And I got to give my flowers to Jake, man, because that was an unbelievable play. I mean, he just decided that he was going to do it. He beats the PP, makes a hell of a play, lays out, puts it all on the line, blocks the punt. Sanusi does a great job picking it up, and it just propels our offense because they were struggling a bit, and we give them a short field, and they capitalize on the short field. So that was a huge play for us.
Yeah, it was massive. And again, sometimes all it takes is a play like that. And then you're right. Like all of a sudden it's like that spark is like, all right, now we can go get this thing. We needed just that play. And I feel like a lot of teams throughout the league can be momentum based where it's like what both teams are waiting for a team to take the momentum. And then a team does it like, all right, now that team's off to the races. And I think that's kind of what we saw on Sunday for you guys. But I want to quickly, before we head out of here, from all of us and Nick, obviously, no predictions, right? We're not gonna do that, but I want to get your opinion on the Lions in general, just like Jared Goff, the offense, obviously the defense. They have a lot of great talent. It's supposed to be a great game. What's your assessment of Detroit right now? And then for Q and Sam, if you want to throw a prediction out there, I'm not going to stop you from doing that.
Let's be honest about the Detroit Lions. They've been to back-to-back NFC championships. They've finished top 4 in the NFL 2 years in a row. I want to say, like, since we had that record-breaking kick to beat them in 2021, they have been on basically a historic tear. They've just been tearing everybody up. And I know we got the better of them a couple of years ago, but they are still one of the best teams in the NFL. And, you know, they had a stumble week 1. I think the Green Bay Packers are a lot better than people were anticipating. And they came out last week and they put a whooping on the Bears, and they're a team that we have to obviously we respect them, right? But it's just they're just such a good team. Like you can't make any mistakes. You got to play near perfect football to beat them because they're so talented. They have playmakers all over the field, offense, defense, and special teams. You got to always be on your toes. It's going to be a great test for us because it's early in the season. We're going to, we didn't win week 1. We bounced back, played pretty good in the second half in week 2. Thought defense played great. And it's just continuing to build. And can we put all 3 phases together? Because I think the first game, offense looked great. Defense, not so hot, and late in the fourth quarter. Special teams, we didn't play very good either from this opening kickoff. And to last week where I thought the defense and the special teams kind of carried the game, giving the offense a lot of good opportunities to get points on the board. And so now it's our job. We want to see all 3 of those phases work together to really kind of show what we are capable of. capable of doing, and what a better opponent to try it against than one of the best teams in the league in the Detroit Lions.
This is a measuring stick game. And when you are one of the better teams, you go up against another team that is a really good team and has a quality quarterback play. We talked about all the special teams. We talked about what they do on defense. Their team takes on the personality of their head coach. I think this is a game, Dan Campbell, John Harbaugh, they both feel like, hey, we're going to try to hit you in the mouth. I feel like this is one of those moments where you're going to get the guy that you didn't expect to show up. And so depending upon if he is active, and obviously we know Rasheen Ali had his concussion, I think this might be Key Mitchell about to do something special. I'm just saying, maybe potentially, who knows if he's up. Okay? So with that said, I think, again, high scoring from the Ravens offense. I don't know. I thought that Jared Goff was a little off against the Packers, but that's a division opponent. I thought clearly he dominated defensive output for the Chicago Bears and put up 52 on them. I'm going to say that this might be one of those games where it's going to be a shootout per se. And I'm going to give the Ravens 48. I'm going to say the Lions 35, but Malachi Starks comes up with the game-ending interception, and Kyle Hamilton gets a game-changing play as well where he tips the ball up, and that interception happens.
Hey, that's a go dogs moment right there. That's a go dogs moment for you right there, Nick.
I love that.
Dan, what do you got?
I think I agree with everything Q said about the offense. I think the Ravens offense is just humming. I think they're in the midseason form. I think Lamar Jackson is just going off, just building off his performance from last year. So very impressed by the offense. The defense, I think the name of the game, get after Jared Goff early, similar to what they tried to do with Joe Flacco. If they can get him flustered early, it's going to be a long day for that Lions team. I think M&T Bank Stadium, Monday Night Football, all black is going to be rocking. So it's going to be up to the Lions to attack this Ravens defense and not the other way around. I don't think that the Ravens need to be scared of the Lions defense, Lions offense. The Ravens defense do what they do. Lions offense need to find a way to respond to that. So I think the Ravens win. I think they win big. I'm going to say that the Ravens still put up 41 points, but I think the Lions only put up 20.
Man, it's going to be a good game. I think both these teams have the offensive firepower and the defensive talent to really have this one go any which way. But I'm expecting a close game, maybe a little bit high scoring, but nonetheless, this is a big measuring stick game. I definitely agree with that. But that's all we have for you on the Locked On Ravens Squad show. Nick, I appreciate you for hopping on. Sam and Q, of course, you as well. Thank you for your time. And you can follow all of these fine gentlemen on Instagram. Only 2 of them on Twitter, though. We're apparently working on that with Nick. Hopefully one day we're going to get there. But you can follow one day. Nick, you can follow on Instagram at NickMoore046. You can obviously follow Sam and Q on Twitter and Instagram as well. And we'll be back here on the Locked On Ravens Squad show after the game on Monday. We'll have our post-game episode. And then, of course, you can also catch me on the Locked On Ravens podcast every single weekday plus more. So, again, thank you to everybody who tuned in on the way out. Hit the like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along in audio form. We'll see you right back here soon on the Locked On Ravens Squad show.